We are excited to hear that some of our listeners are getting into podcasts for the first time because of the More You NoCo. A quick PSA for everyone out there. On your favorite app or podcast avenue, there are settings to listen to the show a bit faster than normal speed. Maybe you enjoy the show as it is, and that's awesome. However, if you've ever found yourself waiting for me, your host, to get to the point already, or maybe you just want to cram more episodes into your daily commute, you may enjoy speeding up your listening of the show to 1.1, 1.2, or maybe even 1.3 times. When I listen to the show before publishing an episode, I typically listen at 1.3 times speed on the app of my choice, RSS Radio. And don't worry, it doesn't make the voice as high-pitched like the old cartoons. Everything sounds the same, just a bit faster. You won't miss a thing. I promise. Now, on to our episode. Hello everybody out there and welcome to the More You NoCo. It's like the greatest hit tracks of the people of Northern Colorado without the cheesy infomercials. I'm your host Ivan Wayne. Today's guest is Haley Hughes, founder and owner of RDRX Nutrition in Greeley. She is a registered dietitian and diabetes educator who found herself in a healthcare treatment setup she did not enjoy. Like many of our other guests on the show, Haley decided to do something about her predicament. Hear what Haley has to say about dieting, fitness, being an entrepreneur, and of course, hear her take on donuts. And here we go. Okay, welcome everybody. I sit here in person with Haley Hughes, the founder and owner of RDRX Nutrition. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we are here at your location in Central Greeley?
Yeah, I would say so.
Almost Evans. Well, you got Crabtree Brewing within an earshot, so that's awesome.
It's pretty prime.
It's a good location.
Yeah.
So let's start with, what is RDRX Nutrition? I feel like I always say that, but man, it's always a good launching spot.
It's kind of a tongue twister, but I decided to do RDRX as registered dietitian prescribed. What that means is it's more of a customized way of nutrition planning and coaching versus just a generic like diet plan or focusing on a fad diet. I really believe in customizing and individualizing nutrition. So I try to encompass that with the name and also throw in my credentialing there so that my clients have that background and that trust.
Makes you look legit.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between coaching and, say, a typical diet plan?
So with coaching, usually I'll have clients sign up and we'll communicate throughout the week. They'll have a weekly check-in for that accountability and support. To give a generic meal plan, I don't usually just do that without following up with the client because I like to see their progress. I like to see what worked, what didn't work. Nutrition is something that is always changing, and being able to customize it throughout my clients' time with me I think is really important versus just here's your plan, see you later. So I really try to coach and support them through it.
And when did you get started?
I got started in June 1st.
Okay.
Started to phase out some of my full-time, part-time jobs and have been able to become full-time private practice.
So far, how have clients or patients been finding you?
I think word of mouth has definitely been the biggest way. I do a little bit on social media. My office is literally next door to a CrossFit gym, CrossFit Helix here in Greeley, and they have been amazing. They're not just a gym. They really support the nutrition aspect of health and have been really helpful with clients. And then I did work for a private practice group of physicians in town, so I had a few clients follow me there from there.
So CrossFit Helix next door, helping you get a couple of clients. Okay, first, clients, patients, what do you call them?
I like to say clients. Even friends sometimes.
Friends.
I like it to be more casual so they can be, open.
Folks.
Yeah.
And so what is this full-time position you've been talking about phasing out? You can kind of talk a little bit about the journey right before you started RDRX.
Sure. So I used to work inpatient and outpatient in a hospital setting or clinic setting. doing nutrition counseling and also diabetes education. Kind of have phased that out so I could do more of my own thing and have more follow-up and support my clients a little bit more.
Where did this interest start kind of, I guess, coming to the surface that it was time to start your own thing?
Sure. So in healthcare, sometimes you don't get as much time as you'd like with each patient or client, and I wanted to really be able to walk with them through their health journey versus here's your handout. I know you just had a stroke, but this is a heart healthy diet. Here you go. I don't think that's as beneficial as it could be. I think when people are ready to change and are more open to getting the nutrition advice, it's just a better situation for the provider and the patient. So
you wanted to see patients more than once.
Right.
Because you would typically see everybody once, give them a pamphlet, give them a talk, and I hope that was good.
Yeah, sometimes only 15 minutes depending how many people are on your schedule, and that's just not enough time to really get to know the person and their habits. And
I'm an educator myself, and I've bounced around different types of education in my career, and I can imagine the difference between having a student for a year and then giving I used to teach middle school math, and I can imagine getting to teach a middle schooler one math lesson and say, I hope you do well in the ACT, I'll see you later.
Exactly.
And that's the difference. So where were you working before? You mentioned that you were coming from Denver?
I was working for Sentara Health in Denver, doing their diabetes program, and then I also worked for Family Physicians here in Greeley.
Family Physicians out in West Greeley.
There's 5 locations, actually.
Oh, in town?
One is in Johnstown.
Okay.
And they're wonderful.
There's a lot of things that you do here, and let's start with that you are a registered dietitian, and I think your website, you wanted to make it a point that you did have your credentials. Can you kind of speak to that?
So it's a little bit of a sensitive subject. Anyone in the state of Colorado can call themselves a nutritionist. So registered dietitians who have been through a 4-year degree, an internship, and then also grad school, it makes it hard to educate the public on, where are you getting your nutrition advice from, and does this person even have an education? I feel like everyone is on the same team trying to help people become more healthy, but I have had some experiences with nutritionists providing not the best advice and interacting with medications or interacting with their lab values, things like that, where maybe if they would have had that education, we would have avoided that. So registered dietitians have a little bit more schooling typically and are held to ethical standards as well.
And you mentioned that in Colorado, anyone can call themselves a dietitian. Is this a state-specific context, or?
It depends. So Colorado does not have licensure for our profession, which is pretty rare. I think there's only 5 other states that kind of keep it a free-for-all. So,
is there, any background to that policy, why that exists, or?
All I know is they've been lobbying for a long time and have not made much progress with that. Being from Alaska, where I did have to have licensure, it was a little bit different coming here. Still in the hospital setting and most government settings, you do have to have the RD behind your name for any employment.
So what brought you down here to Colorado?
Well, I was a little tricked. I was envisioning northern Colorado to be a lot like Alaska. I thought there'd be a lot of skiing and outdoor activities because it just sounded kind of the closest thing to Alaska. Getting here and seeing cowboy boots and cows for the first time, I was a little bit shocked, but the community has been amazing and I wouldn't trade my time at UNC for anything, so I had a really good experience, and obviously I came back, so.
I assume you applied to multiple schools back in the day.
I did.
And you chose UNC because you thought it's going to be Alaska-ish.
I also did get to run track and cross country, so that was another benefit, I would say. And then seeing their dorms versus some of the others, I got to live in the new ones. That was also a selling point. So.
Oh, so the dorms, the living facilities for students were nicer at UNC?
And the cafeteria and the schools are just all... I think they did a really good job.
So you were here in Greeley, you went through your undergrad at UNC, and then what?
I went and did my master's degree at Illinois State. Another cultural shock, being surrounded by cornfields and not a lot. So Midwest wasn't quite for me, but I did enjoy my grad program. Had a lot of great experiences there. I worked in a hospital, community setting, food service, to get kind of that well-rounded dietitian education. Took a big exam and then moved home to Alaska to work in the hospital setting.
What was your initial reason for going out to Illinois State?
So we don't get much of a choice as dietetic interns. You apply to schools and then you're chosen by a school.
Oh, it's like a match?
Mm-hmm, you're allowed to rank them. I chose Illinois State first because they had a grad program where I could teach and not have a ton of loans afterwards. So, and I liked the focus of leadership and management. So
that's one reason why I really enjoyed the graduate program for educational psychology at UNC is we get to be instructor of record for courses. So we actually get real teaching experience, and we're not just grading papers and sitting in the back and hosting review sessions, but we are the instructor. People call me professor, even though I'm not a professor, and it's not that way in many grad programs. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So after Illinois State, you go back to Alaska.
I did, and I miss Colorado. A lot more sunshine and things to do. And growing up there, I don't know how to explain it. Wintertime is hard, so getting sunshine all the time, and I had a lot of friends that stayed in Colorado. And
so you're in Alaska, and then what happens?
I worked 7 days a week at a inpatient hospital, and on weekends I'd work at a long-term care center and just worked away. Tried to get all of the background education in chronic disease management and the medical side of things just so I could have that knowledge base. At that time I didn't think I would go into private practice, but I just wanted to pay my dues and get as much education and experience as I could. So.
And did you know you were going to leave Alaska again?
No.
So how did that come about?
Well, I started dating my now husband, who wasn't quite ready to move to Alaska. I mean, the hunting and fishing was a good selling point, but decided Colorado would be a better fit.
And was he from Colorado?
Mm-hmm.
And so now you all moved back?
We're here in Greeley for the long haul, so.
Yeah, and now you've started RDRX Nutrition in Greeley, physical space, and welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome back, I should say.
You can't beat the community here. I probably would have never had the guts to do it in Alaska. Not that people aren't supportive, but I think Greeley puts a lot of value on local business and caters to that population. So.
Did you feel that while you were an undergrad student, or do you mean after you came back?
I would say after I came back. It wasn't even in my mind. I didn't even know private practice was an option. And so that's why I'm so passionate about having students come in, or the Northern Colorado Dietetics Association meetings. I try to invite students and let them know there's so much more out there than maybe what they're going to learn just in their internship or through their education, because I really didn't know private practice was actually an option until I started seeing more on social media and hearing about other dietitians doing it. So.
And you just got this feeling that if I start a small business, I think people in this community are going to support me and get behind me.
I think there's a definite need here in Greeley. I mean, I wasn't positive that people would hop on or support it, but I've had nothing but positive, help from anyone and everyone. So
you say need because you feel like the area is lacking in people with services like yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Succinct. In addition to what we've already mentioned, you are a certified diabetes educator. Can you walk us through what that is?
So there's definitely a need for that too, with obesity and diabetes still increasing. In the hospital setting, that is one of the top nutrition things to counsel on. To become certified, you do 2,000 hours, I think I did. I don't know, it's been a while, but also taking an exam to get that credential. But it was a lot more than just doing dietitian work. I got to place insulin pumps, continuous glucose monitors, help people use their glucometer, and assess their medications and labs and things like that. So I did really feel like that helped me grow my knowledge base and career, just being able to do things outside of the typical dietitian wheelhouse, I guess.
And since starting in June, do you feel like you've found a need for education in diabetes with your clients?
So right now, I don't have a ton of clients with diabetes, just because the clientele coming to me now they're more people who are already exercising, who are already kind of know what to do, but just need a plan and need some accountability. So it hasn't been as critical disease management as it was in the hospital setting versus out in private practice. So.
Do you imagine having some clients who say diabetes in my family. I think I'm genetically predisposed. Can you help me stay away from it?
Absolutely. That is a huge one. Even those people who are already generally healthy now, they're still voicing a lot of concerns about, well, mom or dad has diabetes or they have other risk factors and want to know how to prevent that. So that's a huge, huge goal I try to educate my clients on. Is it's not just about the weight loss. It's not just about, having a perfect meal plan or, eating right. It's also the disease prevention and, not getting to the point where you have to reverse things or try to go back. So
be proactive instead of reactive.
Yes.
So when clients come to you, I assume it starts with an in-person consultation. You figure out, what do you hear? How can I help you? And then that's where you kind of decide, are we going to go into a diet plan? Am I going to help you with diabetes? At what level will I help you and in what service?
I start usually with a 15-minute phone call, just going over what I provide, my philosophy, my values, to make sure that I'm a good fit for them. I don't think I'm the perfect dietitian for everyone, so I like to introduce myself and kind of give them a background of where I'm coming from and what I can offer. And then, yes, definitely setting up an in-person visit to go over all of their lifestyle habits, their food preferences, their family size, everything. I try to get as much information as possible during that first visit so that we can set up a solid plan and really cater to what their goals are. So, like, for example, not everybody wants to do a meal plan. They just want to have some accountability, or they have just totally different goals, whether it's being a better athlete over at CrossFit or just providing better food for their family, things like that. So I really try to meet them where they're at and really assess the person as a whole versus here's what I would do.
Past day one, I imagine this branching out effect where after a month, the same two people who come in to you, their plans look completely different. And then you end up with all these clients with completely different plans. How do you keep track of this?
So that is a great question, and that's definitely been the biggest surprise for me is how much time outside of the actual counseling that I spend on these meal plans. I put specific, protein, carb goals with customized recipes that I've either made or researched, ingredient lists, all kinds of things that take a lot of time outside of just the counseling. So staying on track, I really try to set up a system. I try to set up goals while they're in person. We kind of go through what next week is going to look like together versus me sending it and then going back. And then I have an app where they have 24/7 access to me where we communicate and just stay on top of things.
Oh, so you have an app so you don't have to exchange email or text. It's kind of halfway in between?
Exactly. So as a dietitian, I need to keep their health information private. So the app that I have just, has passwords and things to make sure that they feel safe and confident with their information.
Earlier you mentioned social media, and I'm pretty sure that's how I discovered you. I think you were a recommended person to follow on Instagram. And I think you're like 8th, 9th person I've now interviewed from Instagram.
Nice.
Yeah, so your presence on social media is working.
I'm trying. I just deleted my entire Instagram last week because I was going back over some of my recipe pictures and was kind of embarrassed. So I studied science, not art or photography. So I'm really trying to go back and clean up some of those pictures and remake some of the recipes to, better display what the food is instead of going back and looking at it and I'm like, I don't know if I'd eat that.
So wait, you deleted the Instagram or you took it down and you're editing it and then you'll...
So I've already got a few new posts up and I've scheduled for the next month of posts. I just deleted most of some of the food pictures where I was like, no, I can definitely do better than that. So
that's bold.
The point is to make healthy food look appetizing and actually taste great. So I think my pictures needed to step their game up a little bit too.
It's interesting, right? There's definitely a different element. The microsecond you're cooking for another person, all of a sudden representation matters.
Yeah.
But sometimes I look down at my plate if I'm just making for myself and I think, my God, I could not serve this to any other person on the planet. But hey, it tastes great for me and this is what I'm going to eat.
Exactly.
On your website, I was perusing today, you used a phrase called victims of dieting. And you think that some of your clients fall into this category. What do you mean by that?
So I do have a lot of clients who have gone through every fad diet and, either rebounded or gained the weight back, which is devastating because people work really hard to make those changes. And if they're not, customized to what their actual goals are, it doesn't always work out. I have a lot of people, spending a lot of money on supplements that have no evidence behind them. I have people, restricting an entire food group and causing elevated cholesterol or an elevated lipid panel and having to add a medication. So I think there's just so much out there that it's really hard for the consumer to not be a victim of some of these not so great diet advice.
And that's the overwhelming part, because depending on which blog you go to or which website, you're going to be recommended to do vastly different things. And sometimes people don't know which way to go.
Sure.
How do you help people navigate that?
By going through what they're doing and what they feel is sustainable, what's worked in the past, what parts of their fad diets were really not working for them. For example, I had someone this morning who was putting 3 different types of fat in their coffee, but had no idea why, but just to follow kind of more of the keto guidelines, but not, long story, but just things like that where, you find it and you think it's healthy because they're great at marketing, or just kind of going through where they're at and what is going to be sustainable in the long run.
So if I were to ask you, are you a proponent of ketogenic or low carb, would you stay agnostic in your response? I'm curious how you would navigate this for a client.
So not to be shady or not give a straight answer, but it really depends on the person. For example, I had a few ex-ketoers, and now we're trying to make more of a balanced diet versus following 80% fat. But I have seen some negative effects, and I've seen people gain the weight back because they weren't able to sustain that lifestyle. As a therapeutic approach, I think it can be helpful for lowering blood sugar and sometimes helping people lose weight. However, without the research of long-term effects, and I really still try to focus on a better balance.
Yeah, from my understanding, low carb or zero carb, the long-term effects, we're getting different results from different studies.
Exactly. So it's really hard to, I never, want to shut down a client without understanding why they're following that diet or, make them feel stupid or anything like that. So I really try to keep the options open and make it the healthiest possible situation based on what they're willing to do.
Do you self-disclose your diet plan if a client begins to ask you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm very transparent. My diet's not perfect, and I don't expect anyone's to be. Do I try cooking with a lot of whole foods and less processed? Yeah. Making it taste good, I think, is really important. So every once in a while, if I have a sprinkle of cheese on something, or I have dessert, things like that, to me, my quality of life is much more important than feeling like I have to eat perfectly. So
cheese is in your bad category?
Well, my cheese portion sometimes is a little bit more than what it should be, is what I
suspect the same from myself. You have tripped an alarm in my brain.
Yeah.
Because I'm notorious for having a block of cheese in my hand as if I were eating a Snickers bar.
Yeah, I do that too. Well, it just makes everything taste better sometimes, so.
Do you think it's simply brand marketing and dollars to be had as to why we have so much disagreement? Or do you think it is truly because people found these things that worked for them and they didn't realize that it was self-specific and they thought, oh, this is the way everybody should go?
I'm going to go with part B of what you said. I think some people do much better with a little bit more carb allowance than others. Others, have a better satiety cue when they have a little bit more protein, and some doesn't matter. So it just really depends on the person. And their activity levels is a big factor, what they're used to. And
we are next door to Helix CrossFit, and I noticed from your website you said that you are both a level 1 CrossFit coach. So what does that mean, level 1?
So that means I am certified to coach. I think there's up to level 5, maybe 4. So I have the basics to be a coach, and I am still going through the training program. They take it pretty seriously so that we can provide good corrections and really coach people in the most proactive way with keeping injuries out and things like that. So I'm a proponent of CrossFit. I was a little skeptical at first. I ran track and cross country for UNC and was like, whoa, where's my teammates? Where's somebody telling me what to do? So the coach part was very appealing to me. I was a little nervous about, people wearing tall socks and talking about paleo all the time and things like that. But it was absolutely not like that at all. Yeah, it's really cool to be able to work out in a gym where you have that community and that coaching and different workouts every day and focusing on functional movement. I believe in that. So,
in case folks at home don't fully know already, how is CrossFit different than a typical going to the gym and working out with weights?
Sure. So every day we have a planned specific workout that's been programmed for the entire month, really. And you have a coach every class, and we have a specific warm-up for every workout, and there's someone always there helping you through it. Everybody, just like with nutrition, everybody has a different weight or a prescribed workout, and they can accommodate for injuries and things like that. Our biggest focus coaching is preventing those injuries and helping the person keep growing towards whatever their athletic goals are and being there for support.
Do most CrossFit injuries occur because they're not doing the motions right, or because it's just physically grueling and people end up making mistakes, or...
I've been here a year now, and I haven't really heard anyone getting seriously injured from a workout. I have more clients from CrossFit who got injured at work than I do from a workout. So I think generally I think what's more unsafe is not doing CrossFit or not doing any exercise. So the people who are kind of on the, you're just going to get injured if you go there, I don't think that's true. I think not doing anything is way more scary than going to a workout and trying to do a little bit of weight.
Well, I personally have never been inside of a CrossFit gym. It's a big black box to me. It's sort of why I ask you. And a lot of times on the show, I mask my own ignorance with, for the listeners out there, it's a real nice way to make me sound like I know what I'm navigating here. I think people with CrossFit, it's easy to dismiss something that you don't want to support or that you're not willing to try. Oh, I don't want to go in there and get hurt. I've seen the clean hang? Yeah. I don't want to do that, so it's dumb and it's not for me. And it's just easy for people to dismiss. And it's more than just CrossFit. I feel like that really can come in with dieting too. Sure. That diet, my aunt did it. It was awful. I'm not trying it. It's like, well, did your aunt do it to fruition?
Yeah. I was one of those people with CrossFit at first. Like, I was like, no, I don't think that would be for me. But we have kids, we have, people, I think, maybe oldest is in their 70s. You can really make it what you want, and that's how nutrition should be too. So
I thought the same with yoga, honestly. I never thought yoga would be a thing I would enjoy. Yeah. The very first session that I went to was actually work sponsored when I lived in Dallas.
Nice.
And I loved it. I was like, this is awesome.
See?
And I still need to get back out to Christy Sullivan. She was a former guest on the show, and she has a yoga studio in Loveland. She's all around badass, and that's an episode you gotta check out.
That's just like people who are like, I don't think I'd like zucchini noodles or cauliflower rice. Well, just try it.
You haven't had it with Cholula, son.
Yeah, you just need a little sauce and making it your own.
I don't mean to put you on blast, but I'm gonna bring this up because I think there's a deeper story here. We might be able to make some good points. You have a list of hobbies and interests on your website. And the last line of that is controversial for someone who has just started their own nutrition company. It says, finding the perfect donut is one of your hobbies.
It is. So I didn't realize I liked donuts, really, until I found I really love Peace, Love, and Little Donuts there in Fort Collins. But just like with nutrition, you get to customize the whole thing. It's a small little perfect portion size. You get to pick your frosting, any topping in the world. And I do love treats in moderation. So yeah, again, I'm very open with my clients about what my diet's like. I mean, you can follow it on Instagram stories, and there's donuts on there every once in a while. So yeah, that's one of my favorites. And it's just kind of fun. And
do clients ask you about that ever?
Oh, all the time. I get crap for it all the time over at CrossFit too. Like, I think we need to find a new nutritionist. I saw your milkshake last night or whatever. So
ooh, burn.
Yeah, they like to keep me on my toes and remind me when I eat bad. So
I assume your response is everything in moderation. I'm balancing it with activity, and I eat X amount of healthy so that I can have this milkshake. I can have this donut.
You gotta live a little. Can't take it so seriously, or it's not fun. And
do you think this speaks to the sustainability part of a diet plan? Is that if I told myself, I love donuts, but I shall never have another donut again, you're less likely to stick with your diet plan than you say, if I eat well all week, I get to go to the donut shop.
Right. I really hate when people call things like, oh, my cheat meal or whatever. I don't like looking at food with that negative context. I would rather people say like, yeah, I did awesome this week and it's okay if I have a burger with my friends or a donut, whatever. So I really try to keep that negative relationship with food out of my coaching. Diet plans and meal plans, yeah, they're great, but my job is to give my clients the education to know what to do when they're eating out or in different situations where they don't have their leftover lunch prepped. So that's one thing that I really try to focus in on. You don't have to follow this plan perfectly. The point is that you start to learn balance and can have a good relationship with food.
And I'm sure for some of your clients, this simple idea of being intentional about what I now eat from now on and planning my meals 2, 3, 4 days ahead, that's a big step for some people.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people that come in who have never meal prepped in their life or, have been eating fast food 5 days a week. So I don't always give a 7-day meal plan to people. It'll be like, even if we can cook 2 meals at home this week, it's really finding where that person's at and not giving an overwhelming amount of pressure to have a perfect diet.
So it's equity of plan. You find out where is their starting point, and I'm going to try to get you here in whatever way that I can.
Yep.
You also do recipe development. And am I interpreting this correctly that it's a straight recipe, or is this a metaphor for something? Or
So on my website, I do have a recipe blog. I am not a chef. I am not a food photographer, but my goal is to come up with meals that are less than 30 minutes so my clients have realistic things to do on weeknights. So I like to do that kind of recipe development. I guess that, I don't know if that's legit, but that's what I call it. And then I also do a lot of nutrition analysis for small local businesses too. So Aunt Helen's I helped with their nutrition labels, and Into Juice as well. I just finished that one up. So
I'm sure the owners of Aunt Helen's are cackling once more because I really am trying to get them on the show, and I think this is the third episode I've tried.
They're awesome.
I've private messaged on Instagram. I've emailed. They're just like, the more you know, Ivan, leave us alone.
Well, they are really busy.
They have not said anything yet, but
they're awesome.
I've added them. I have this like dream list of people for the show, and I think Aunt Helen's Coffee House in downtown Greeley has been added to that list just because of the aura around them now.
Yeah, it's awesome. Aunt Helen is actually like 106, and she's the cutest.
I just learned this 2 days ago. Whew.
Yeah, you need to have them.
I gotta have Aunt Helen on the show.
You do.
Okay, let's start a social movement. Hashtag Aunt Helen on the podcast.
Okay.
I mean, we need to figure this out. Thank you for reminding me. You have reignited my cause. It may not be diet related, but we're here. Do you feel like meal prepping people have a resistance to intentionally planning, buying, and prepping more than a day's worth of food? Because I typically meal prep about a week's worth of food or more at a time. And the reactions that people give me, it's like I said I invited a couple of extraterrestrials into my apartment for some freak experiments. The way they look at you is like I'm some otherworldly creature. I don't...
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to spend my whole Sunday doing that, or who has time to do that, or what's the food quality going to be like, which is, I think, is still a good question. But again, starting with where they're at, I don't personally prep all the way till, the week is over just because I'm concerned about food safety. But I do try to fit in those really quick evening dinners so that I do have leftovers for the next day. So I kind of do it that way, or I'll do 2 nights worth of meals at a time. So I think people just are overwhelmed by having to have a plan and a routine like that, especially if life is sporadic or jobs or they're eating out with clients or whatever. So some people might think that's crazy. They don't have that routine in their lifestyle or ability to do some of that.
I also think that people, when they imagine the recipe that they're going to make for this meal prep, they have something fantastical in mind. But if they saw what I was eating, they would say, oh, that's a Joe Schmo meal. Like, it's literally 3 ingredients and the guy puts mustard on it for flavor. And
there you go.
It can be as easy as people want it to be.
Sure. I even have a client right now who doesn't really have access to a kitchen, so we're kind of makeshifting what he can do without having to actually do a lot of cooking, and what prepped or processed meals are going to be the healthiest option for the time being.
How do you avoid carbs without a kitchen?
Avoid carbs?
Or like balance them? Because I instantly go to granola bars, cereal, peanuts, and it's just like boom, boom, boom.
So
I guess a lot of fresh vegetables, like salads that don't need to be heated up.
And things like that. He does a little bit of... He'll do bread with... I don't really avoid carbs necessarily. I
say this from my own perspective.
Sure.
I just admitted some of my bias out there.
That's all right.
I'm not ketogenic. I'll say I'm low carb.
Sure. He's low carb. So the carb choices right now is like fruit and a little bit of... I think he's doing like a thin crepe as his wrap right now. And it stays within his carb budget. So
speaking to moderation, now that I've fully outed myself, people will often say, "Oh, Ivan, I thought you were doing low carb, and yet I see you at a brewery here in town drinking a beer." And I say, that's exactly why I eat the way that I do, so that I can still have beer, because I'm gonna live. I support local business, and I love locally made craft beer, so I'm gonna go out and have that. Even though, do I know there's a ton of carbs in there? Yes, and that's why I ate the way I did leading up to said brewery excursion.
Yeah. So, for example, I have a client who will not give up his cookies at Subway. Is that the best carb choice? No, but we compromise. He gets a big salad with his protein and uses his carb budget on his cookies. He knows that it's not the healthiest option, but it contributes to his quality of life. So,
that's Subway cookie pops.
They're pretty good.
That's a throwback to childhood.
I know.
I just had like some flashbulb memories of being in Subways and trying to decide which Subway cookie I was going to get.
Can't let it go, so we compromise.
Do you remember the first couple of in- and outpatient clients you were helping in your 15, 20-minute sections that started making you realize, I need more than this? I want more time with patients than just some drive-by consultation?
Sure. I really like building the relationship and seeing the progress. I wasn't getting any job satisfaction from just, hey, my name's Haley, here you go. So I recognized that pretty early, that being a dietitian, I could offer a lot more and really provide that education in a better setting. So. And
then that just built and built over a period of years, and it became something you couldn't look away from anymore.
And also, like, patients finding me outside of my work setting just to see, like, what my advice would be. That was another, like, oh, yeah, I think this is doable. I think that providing care outside of the setting is a real thing, and people actually need it.
So how would people find you outside of work?
Social media, I don't know. My name is all over the...
And they would Facebook message you?
Yeah, it's probably...
That's interesting.
No.
And so this started to give you an idea. It's like, wow, I saw these people in a professional setting, and they're reaching out to me personally because they enjoyed my advice, and they want to continue that relationship with me. Mm-hmm. And you thought, I have something here. So were you already in the Greeley area when you decided to open up RDRX?
I was, yep. I've been back for a couple of years now.
Okay, and were you were you working both in Denver and up here at Family Physicians in Greeley, or were you just Greeley side by that point?
Both. It's complicated. I did work mostly in Greeley, yeah.
You mentioned a blog earlier. Mm-hmm. What is all there? And
so my recipes are on there. Some of my nutrition tips, like topics about alcohol or sleep or things that can impact diet and get you to make it to your goals without just focusing on food. There's so many other factors that go into it. I also am starting a few of my own travel little recommendations. That was a big priority also for starting my own business. I like to travel, so I post once a month of a place I've been and kind of give my food and activity recommendations for that, and it's just for fun. But
so how do you mean that you enjoy travel, so that's one of the reasons that you wanted to start your own business? You mean just because you'd have the flexibility? You wouldn't have to ask anybody for time off?
Exactly.
You just would get to schedule that.
And I can do a lot virtually with my clients. I do a lot of FaceTime and instant messaging and all of that. So
I assume a lot of your work could be done virtually, so it leads me to ask, why a physical space here in town?
I like having the in-person. I like the client getting to know me, feeling comfortable coming to my office versus just over the phone, or FaceTime has been great, but I think a lot of people can get distracted while they're on Facebook or FaceTime, whether it's their kids are screaming in the background or they're on the go, or it's just nice to have a quiet, comfortable environment to do my counseling. So.
And do you feel like you work better here? Sometimes you're at home, you're distracted. I just got to get into the office.
Absolutely. Yeah. I come here all the time just to do even my outside of counseling, just to get my menu plans done and things like that. So.
Have you happened to have a client yet that you knew before from one of your previous jobs who wanted to continue working with you and they found you?
When I was counseling, I would always encourage my clients to find an exercise that they enjoy, and they'd ask me what I did. And a couple have actually come to Helix and have continued being clients that way too.
So is CrossFit the only exercise that you do? Only like consistent workout, or?
I do a little bit of extra cardio in the morning. I still love running and getting that endurance factor in there. And I love anything outdoors, so always out hiking or, well, not in Greeley, but...
You can bike in Greeley, but I would not recommend hiking.
Bike, rollerblades even. Everybody makes fun of me, but I think rollerblading is awesome.
I think rollerblading's coming back. I've been seeing it more.
I tell myself that, but yeah.
I see it on campus at UNC. I'll vouch. Those are the youths of today.
Yeah.
And they are out rollerblading around.
I'll have to find a gang. Yeah.
You are not. I don't know about a rollerblade gang. I don't know that it's coming back that hard, but...
I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That's my next business.
Any curious listeners out there, I noticed that you offer a 15-minute free consultation just to see what's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they can call, they can Facebook me, whatever. I'm more than happy to answer questions. And I have a lot of people ask about payment too. Being a provider, I'm able to provide a super bill. And that just means they are able to get reimbursed by their insurance. So... things like that do really help being a registered dietitian.
You felt this undeniable urge within yourself to become an entrepreneur and have your private practice, and here you are. How has it been since June, now that you are living this thing that you knew you wanted?
Very different than what I expected. Like I said, the time that I spent outside of actually being in my office on meal plans and communicating with my clients, that has been definitely something I've had to adapt and learn how to set boundaries and be better with time management. The UNC students, and then also the East Colorado, what is it?
The East Colorado Small Business Development Center, and I only know that because they were just featured on the show. So go check out that episode.
Yes, they are awesome. So they've really helped me with my business plan and strategy. And I mean, I went to school for science, not accounting. So some of those things where I just didn't have that education I needed help with, they've been awesome. So.
And you're working with about 6 UNC students, and they're just helping you kind of figure out, how do I navigate this? I know the dietitian part. I can help people with diabetes. I'm a fan of CrossFit, but how do I convert this all into revenue and profit and connection and durability with clients over time? Mm-hmm. What's been one of the biggest surprises they've taught you, or epiphanies maybe?
Well, I'm not great with Excel, so they've been amazing at figuring out how to make a good budget and to support my lifestyle. I mean, traveling is very important to me. I want to be able to have quality of life and not be obsessing over work 24/7. So they've kind of put in perspective like how many clients I need or how many menu planning contracts I need to have to be sustainable and still be able to do the activities I like. They've gone through my social media and kind of given me tips on that, which is great because I feel like an old person in social media, and they've kind of pointed out, well, you could do this and that would be a lot easier. And so things like that where they've just, been super helpful.
Did they start roasting your Instagram? Is that
Not
why you...
Not bad. No, actually nobody roasted my Instagram. I made that I know of, to my face. But I remade a salmon recipe, and I went back through my feed and looked at it, and I was like, that is so bad. And just seeing the before and after, I was like, all right, I gotta just start clean and be a little more consistent. So
interviewing entrepreneurs from the show, one of the things I just feel like is it's like whack-a-mole with 200 little groundhogs. I mean, starting your own business, and only one of those tasks that you have to do is the whole kernel of what brought you in here. So dietetics and diabetes education and working with clients, that's what brought you in here. But then you find out 99 other things you've never had to consider, and now it's on you. Yeah. And it's time to start juggling.
There's nobody to help do my billing. There's nobody to help do my scheduling. There's a lot of things that, I've had to figure out how to do on my own. And it's great, though. I think I've always kind of had the entrepreneur spirit. I never like listening to other people, number one. Number two, having control over how I want to provide care and the timing and follow-up guidelines. I mean, I get to recreate that for each person, and that's more valuable to me. So,
And stories like this are always kind of a nudge for people out there who might be thinking about starting their own business, or they have this idea and they have this passion. They go to work like you were before, and they just don't have that job satisfaction, and they think, there's a way I feel like I could do this better. And a lot of people self-doubt. They talk themselves out of it. They talk themselves down and feel like, it's just a dream. And it's something that they'll bring up every time they've had 2 drinks, and they'll just kind of ruminate it. But to hear your story gives people truth. I mean, this isn't a fictional podcast. You are out there, you're doing your idea, and it's real now.
Done a couple presentations to inspire students, and like other dietitians have asked and reached out to me like, oh, well, like if you ever need somebody else, well, I don't need anyone else. I want to keep it just myself, but I'm more than happy to share like how I went through things, what resources I used. I think there's such a need for it, and all of us have something different to offer. I think it's a really, I try to be inspiring to these students and other dietitians because, it's a lot of work, but if you're really passionate about helping a certain population, then I think you should go for it. So,
how do you try to be inspiring for people? That seems like
well, if I can do it, I feel like anybody, you just have to have that drive and commit to it and do it. I'm not going to lie, the website and things like that took me forever. And
it's a very nice website.
Thank you. And just learning, you need to get your business license, LLC, you got to set up some accounting, all of that took me a lot of time, but in the end it was worth it to me because I have a better quality of life now.
And this kind of bridges a thought I had a bit ago. This process is more challenging in ways that you didn't even know. But have you found it's also more rewarding than you were anticipating?
Oh, for sure. I'm not commuting to a far job. I can let my dogs out at lunch. I can kind of schedule around traveling.
If your boss lets you, right?
Yeah. So I think, yes, it's a lot more work, but it's work that I enjoy, and I feel like I'm making a difference. So as far as comparing the two, sometimes I wish I did it sooner, or at least started doing things sooner. So that's, I think, everybody's regret is once you get into it, starting things earlier and being more prepared, maybe.
Why do you think you delayed starting it?
I didn't even know it was an option. Like when I went to UNC, we never talked about private practice. It was kind of like, here's your community classes, here's your food service, and here's your hospital. And I just didn't, it really didn't ever seem like an option. So
a year ago, I was spending some time with 3 of my friends who, I didn't realize it during the hangout, but they were all entrepreneurs, and they all started their own business.
Cool.
And we were talking about something, and I mentioned my boss, because I worked at a high school at the time. Okay. And they all kind of laughed, and they said, what's that like? And I had this moment, I was like, oh my goodness, you all don't have bosses, and you never will again. You all had this idea, and you ran with it, and you made it. And all 3 of them are very inspiring, and they're all in vastly different industries. And that's a moment that's stuck with me since it happened.
So I've had really amazing bosses. I haven't been like, I wasn't like, I'm going to do my own thing because I'm tired of listening to other people. But I think even just in corporate settings, you don't have the freedom, you don't have the creativity, time to make people meal plans or what they're needing. And that was a really limiting factor to my job. I couldn't really grow, and I couldn't really help people as much as I wanted to. So,
well, it's a whole different frame of mind. Imagine, let's go geography first. Imagine that you were to leave the United States and someone said, what country are you moving to? And you said, I'm going to start my own country. It doesn't exist yet. And people would say, what? Or imagine if you built your own car and you got it licensed, and then someone saw you pull up in the parking lot and they said, oh, I love your car. What make and model is it? And you say, I don't know. I made it. It's hard to conceive these things. Yeah. And yet this is what you're doing. This is what people who start their own business and they chase these dreams, and they say it's worth it. It's worth the risk to me.
Yeah, I would say that. And it's always a learning curve, depending on what people are wanting and needing. I mean, I don't have a set plan every day. It's always different. So yeah, the ideas have to keep coming and finding new strategies and getting people to where they want to be. And for example, I'm doing a challenge with CrossFit Helix right now, or a nutrition challenge, which I'm not used to doing group things and having prizes and all of that kind of stuff. And that is a whole new world to me. I'm used to kind of the individual counseling. So learning how to, have people engage on Facebook together and share what's working for them, or a new recipe they found, that's all been really great and just a totally different experience. So,
or is it just now the Watchman is being watched?
What? I don't know.
that you're being held accountable now, because you've made a profession out of holding other people accountable.
Yeah, that's probably a big part of it. It's just, I didn't realize how much community and accountability was so beneficial in my own life, and now being in a seat where I do get to be that person for someone else is.
So just in case people hear this show and they like what they hear from RDRX Nutrition and they want to reach out, what's the best way for people to contact you and get in front of you for one of these 15-minute free consultations?
They can give me a call. They can head to my website or Facebook or Instagram. I've been reached out to by all aspects, so I'm happy to do whatever is easiest. And yeah, I like to do the 15-minute phone call just to make sure that, they feel good about coming in and what I have to offer. So. And
let's say that someone is about to turn off this episode once it's over, and they may never go to RDRX Nutrition in their life. What is one thing you wish to instill in the general population from everything that you've experienced from your freshman year of college up till today?
That's a loaded question. We're talking about nutrition. I think really promoting that it's individualized. When you're looking online or going to a provider, I think you should have a red flag if they're not really listening to what's going on in your life or what food preferences you have or things like that. So really having that focus that you're a unique individual with different health goals and you have different nutrition needs, and instead of just trying to conform to a fad diet. I hate to see people be victims, so just being educated and able to sort through that. As an entrepreneur, I think anything is possible, and if you, as cheesy as that sounds, but if you have the drive and will to do it, it can be a really, really great thing. I don't know how else to explain it, but much happier being able to do my own thing. So.
And do you think people underestimate the benefits and the differences they'll see from changing their diet and eating different? Or at least intentionally.
Yeah, I even have people come in sometimes who I always make them rate their health goal commitment. So, for example, I had one today she was a 6. And I was like, why do you feel that way? Like, you're here to make changes. I need you to be at like a 8 or a 9 at least. And I think they've just done so many fad diets or things that haven't worked, and it's really discouraging, so they don't have much faith in the next thing. So I think a lot of people are discouraged at first until they can kind of customize it to what they need it to be.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
As always, I want to shout out Russell Isaac Long for all the wonderful music used here at the NoCo. Are you looking for a little bit of bonus content in addition to the regular episodes on the show? Look for us out there on the interwebs on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at the NoCo. Until next time, peace!